has been melting away. We've been lying on the shore for a while, and our song is still you are the sea. Is a
My father started up greengrocer's business in Sandend in 1946. We moved down from the farm of Barnyards of Finlitter up at the top of the hill there, and we moved into one of the new houses, which were a prefabs at that time, because it was handy, because across the road the building that the workmen had used for building the prefabs was on a cement base, and it was just appropriate for my father to build his garage on there. And he subsequently started his business from that point.
I was born in Sandend in 1948. At that time the prefabs had just been built at Sandend, and I was the first boy born in the prefabs. So that was 1948. I suppose the memories of Sandend are going further down the village to visit my granny and my grandads and all relatives, because at that time everyone in Sandend was related. So memories of that, memories of going to school, memories of going down the beach, and just playing around with my pals. That was it. Yeah.
I've been going to Sandend since I was a small baby, 3-month-old baby. My parents bought a cottage there in around about 1970, and I went there for every single holiday up until my teens, and have gone frequently as an adult. One of my first memories is of going over the braes at Sandend over to Seagull City, which is known locally where all the seagulls live in their nests, on my own on an expedition, and my big brother having to come and look for me. I think I was about 3. Obviously I have lots of memories of the beach. I seem to remember it being eternally summer. I remember going to the beach, and on the way going to the wee shop and getting candy floss and ice lollies at the Winfield's shop, and going to the beach, spending days on the beach in the summer with my mum and my siblings and my dad.
The beach has always been popular. If you go back to maybe the 20s and 1920s and 1930s, the residents of Sandend, they didn't have much money. They were all fishermen, and fishing wasn't that good at the time. So to try and augment that, during the summer, the occupiers would let out the house for visitors to come, and they would come, and the occupier of the house would then move up into the loft and stay there where the nets were mended, or they'd go out and stay in the wash house outside while the visitors were there. Of course, at that time there was no water, no sewage, no electricity, so the lady of the house had to carry buckets of water for her guests, and of course she also had to empty the toilet a couple of times a day. So the attraction for these visitors was the beach, and they would come from all over, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Perth. They would come up, motor up maybe come by train, because at that time there was a station just up at Glasgow, so it was busy at that time. However, in the war, the Second World War, during that, visitors, that trailed off. After the war, it did pick up a wee bit, again, the attraction was the beach. People would still come to the beach from all around, you know, and if it was a nice day. And of course now we still have visitors, but they have holiday homes. And again, the attraction is the harbour area, and the beach.
Back in the 50s and 60s, you could access the beach with motor cars. And I would say roughly you could have 200 cars sitting in that beach on a Sunday afternoon in 2 ice cream vans. Funnily enough, my auntie had a wee shop, an ice cream shop in Sandend, and she had her van there, and also the ice cream cafe from Portsoy, they put a van out too. Because a lot of people come in down from the country, they could change their clothes in the car, get into their swimming trunks and go into the scenic up and dry off. And actually, there used to be buses, Alexander's buses. I've seen 4 of them parked down beside the school there on a Sunday through the week with school picnics. It was quite a common thing, especially in the summertime. There was an awful activity back then, like, but that was coming. When we were kids, we used to get a tip from pushing people off the beach coming up onto the road, because the sand was softer there, you see, because the sea had never come up to that part, you see, and some of the cars stuck, so just half a dozen you got in behind and pushed the cars out, so there was a half crown was thrown out the window, you know. That was common practice right through the summer, like.
One big feature of it for me as a kid, although I'm not sure if I entirely properly understood why they were there, were the blocks, although I probably did ask. I was quite a curious kid. The blocks that were put there in the Second World War to prevent the Germans invading, I think, from Norway. They were worried the Germans were going to invade. And the gun houses as well, they were quite good fun to go in as a kid. And I think teenagers did bad things in there when they, I wouldn't know. When we were teenagers, it used to be a good place to hide out. There was another gun house on the road, but I think that had been sealed off to stop people going in. So that's something I really do remember about the beach. But just endless days of sunshine, absolute happiness, really. Any song from the early 80s just reminds me of being on that beach. I used to have to get dragged back in the car at the end of the summer.
And these blocks that are still there was Churchill's beach defence idea, which even started Scapa Flow and right doing so. That's why in fact, there's a lot of beaches that I've been at. I've never seen these, but the Sandend seem to be unique at the still here. Maybe they've been removed, or maybe disappeared, but the Sandend ones are they're still here.
It's just a huge area of clean sand. During the war, there were poles put into the beach to stop landings. The blocks were also built. The blocks are still there, and really we need them there for erosion. Otherwise, the sea just keeps going further in and further in. I remember going to the beach in the morning. It was a nice day, down with the pals down the beach, and into the water, home for lunch, back down again in the afternoon. Perhaps Mum would come along, aunties, all the cousins, and we'd have a picnic. The picnic, of course, was you had your tea, and the best china came down, and biscuits, sandwiches, and whoever stayed nearest the beach would nip home, boil up a couple of kettles, and come back with the hot water for the tea. And then it was back into the sea again, and then back, when you come out of the sea, you always got a biscuit. This was called chatri chow, and this was a biscuit to stop your teeth chattering. Chattery child. I would just describe the beach as a great place. You know, and now, as well as people going in just to paddle or whatever, we have the surfers come in, and it's good to see them in the summertime. All the surfers there, and people in the water, and people having picnics. I don't know if they still have a kettle or what, but they still have their picnics.
Swam in the sea, I sunbathed, I made sandcastles. I'm the youngest by quite a long way, so I've spent a lot of the time getting buried by my older siblings up to my neck, and as you do, as they like to do. As a teenager, we had parties on the beach with bonfires, which was great. Just sat on it and looked out to sea as well often as a teenager, and doing that puts things into perspective often as well. I wasn't one for water sports. I think I've played on a boogie board once. Didn't really, I mean, there were people surfing. I remember people coming in the 80s with t-shirts saying Sandend Surf City. So it was known even at that time as a surf place. I know it's grown now, but there was people frequently surfing there. I went out on a boat once, on a holiday maker's boat out into the bay, so saw the beach from that side as well. But I mean, there was always a lot of people doing water sports and had boats and canoes and
the harbour was a hive activity too. A lot of kids did a lot of swimming in there in the evenings going after them home from school. You see, they just dumped the school bag and just away down and onto swimming trunks, and they just spent their whole evening in the harbour. Like
some of the kids did go in boats. There was a fishing boat in the harbour. He would go out for lobsters or mackerel, and sometimes occasionally take the kids out with him. I was out once or twice, but I wasn't out that often. Although my dad was a fisherman, the sea never really appealed to me, other than to go in with my swimming costume. That was it.
I remember Sandend from many years ago when I used to come down just to have a look around the village and walk along the beach. That's many years ago, and then I never thought that one day I would actually live here. And when I retired, wife and I just wanted somewhere to retire where it was peaceful and quiet, and we found a house in Sandend and bought it and moved into Sandend then. Village life is quiet, and it's a lot of visitors come down to Sandend. I mean, we notice from warehouse, I mean, how many cars go up and down the road every day. And it's got its fish processing plant down the road as well, which a lot of fish vans come down here and load up and sell their fish around the countryside. And I find it peaceful here and it's quiet. So. My wife, she collects sea glass for a friend of hers who turns it into the jewellery and pictures using the sea glass. So she's often down there and she just has a look for sea glass, and she came across, found this medal, which was a Golden Jubilee medal from Queen Victoria. It's not in good state of repair, but it was readable to what was on it, and that's what it was a Golden Jubilee medal for Queen Victoria. Well, I mean, she finds quite a few bits and pieces down in the beach. It's of interest, and like bottle stoppers and things like that. It comes from old medicine bottles and things like that. Like, you know, so it's quite interesting, some of the things that she finds. So, very interesting.
Came here 2002. I've been here since. I've got a house down in the village. The beach is just absolutely brilliant. It's very calming. When I first moved here, I was going over the beach, I would say every day, guaranteed every day, and I would go down there, sit there, hours, just watching the waves, listening to the sea. I had a dog, so I used to go down there and the dog would just run about for ages. You'd meet folk. It's quite a social beach. You're always meeting people from the village or out with the village that come here because it's such a nice beach. And because they're coming down here quite a lot, you make friends. So you might meet them a couple of times, but the more you're down there, the more you do meet them. So you actually make quite a group of friends off of the beach, as well as friends that you've got that live in the village. You know, so it can be a very social gathering point, I could say. You know, we go down there, we have barbecues, you know, go down there at night, have a bonfire on the beach, barbecue, a few beers, just a general get-together on the beach with friends, family, campfire, and everybody just sits there. All the dogs will be running about, the kids will be building sandcastles. If it's still warm, they'll be in and out of the water, you know, kids eating sandwiches, adults burgers or whatever, plus beers, of course. You know, so it's a very, I would say, it's a very important part of the community and the surrounding areas.
Well, one of my favourite stories about that beach is that one of the big features of that area, in fact I think there's a dark sky park not far from there, is the night sky. You can see the Milky Way really clearly. And I remember, well, a couple of things I remember. I do remember meteor showers and making a midnight feast for me and my friend. The midnight feast consisted of wham bars, and she'd come to my house and throw stones at my window and we would sneak out and see these, but I slept right through. I'm sure I've seen them on other occasions, I have seen them on other occasions. But I remember also, I think this is as an adult, yeah, definitely as an adult, I was walking along the beach, well, actually got off the beach and onto the road, and we looked back and we saw a meteorite fall out the sky. Went and looked for it the next day, but I don't think you could probably distinguish it very easily from another rock. So if anybody's a geologist, they might want to go, it might still be there, very end of the beach. Saw a falling star. That was quite special. Another special moment.
The beach, I think, I would say is one of the best beaches in Scotland. It's very sandy. It's very picturesque. It's also, I would say, very good for the surfing, because I mean, I see from where I am, I see surfers here day in, day out, nearly every day of the year. It's also a very picturesque place for people walking their dogs. There's the dunes where the dogs can roam about in the dunes. I walk quite a lot. I walk from here sometimes to Portsoy, going along the cliffs. And I don't think that the beach should be disrupted in any way by any other means of people trying to put cables through it or anything like that.
I mean, I had a road crash 5 years ago, so I've got a car and I can drive about, but sometimes I'm too bad, and I've got a mobility scooter. And due to that beach being so shallow and everything else, it's easily accessed for me and other people on wheelchairs. You can get right onto the sand. It's really smooth. You can go about quite easily, especially with the crutches. You know, it's a great beach, and if all this goes ahead, there's going to be so much disruption.
I think the sands, if they disrupt the sands, it will affect the surfing on the beach, because if the sand dunes are moved, then they probably won't ever come back to what they are, and it will affect the surfers, and also the disruption which it could cause to people visiting the beach, which is, as I said, was busy all year round. People dog walking, and especially in the summer when caravan sites full and people using the beach for picnics and everything like that. The disruption, which obviously there's going to be drilling rig here, which is going to be making a noise, which will probably affect people in the village. And I would also be concerned that the beach would never come back to what it should be, irrespective of the promises that they make, because of what I've seen by cables coming in other parts of the countryside.
I believe they have been shown some plans, but at the moment they're told that this is just one of the options. Don't think so. I think this is maybe there are a few options, but this is the one they've their eye on. How it's going to affect the beach itself, I don't really know. Any construction work, I'm concerned about that. You know, the bridge as you come into Sandend, is it going to withstand heavy machinery coming in? What sort of upheaval is there going to be? How is it going to affect tourism while this is going on? Those are the things that concern me.
Well, yes, it'll probably cause a bit of a disruption. I mean, there's only one road, Auckland, the village. You couldn't take we call it the Kingsbury. You couldn't take that into consideration. But the main road here, I think that bridge there, as you come into the village, will maybe have to be constructed a bit strength, because some of the equipment will be probably taken, unless they make a road somewhere else. This is the thing we don't know. You see, there's no information saying that they would be making a new road or anything like that. They would hit to stick to the original road that's coming into the village, you see.
To start with, there wasn't really any liaison with the Sandend community as such. There was some very small adverts in the local press saying about consultations here and there regarding the landfall, the cables, but it was very, I wouldn't like to say hush-hush. It was very much, right, okay, we'll advertise it, but we'll do the minimum that we have to do to be a legal requirement. You know, so a lot of people didn't know about it. And it was really word of mouth, you know, and that's how it spread. And I went to the one in Portsoy when I found about it, and it was just a sham. There was very little pamphlets available to people. I wrote feedback on one of the forms. There was a friend was in later on after me. When I'd asked, I didn't have a pen or anything with me. When I'd asked for something to fill up the form for feedback, I was handed a pencil. Now, when my friend was in later on, he got handed my form, but it had been rubbed out. So my concern was how many other forms had been either thrown out or rubbed out if it didn't suit what the company's view were. So I made it totally clear with the company that the consultation they had there was just an absolute waste of time. Their communication with the village had been absolute rubbish, and due to other people complaining and involvement within the community council, that the company came to the village hall here and did a sort of a question and answers with the village. And since then there's been another one here at the hall, and they are genuinely trying to get the community involved for feedback and information from the company now, but to me it's just a little too late, because I've already got my opinion that they're just basically, it's a token gesture. You know, the damage was done at Portsoy when the consultation there was just so rubbish, you know. That's my general opinion.
I was at the consultation process here back on March the 7th, and they say they're going to do this, and there is other places where they can bring it in. But the way I look at it is that this is our cheapest option, and of course, as usual, money is where it all boils down to. So, irrespective of the consultations, I still feel that it won't matter what we say, we're going to bring it through here, and that's our big concern.
About cables coming in, and I was down at the beach just now and just took a short video, and I thought I would like to see them trying to put cables in there today. You know, it's so wild and just exactly what effect the cables would have, it's difficult to know. The company that's doing it, there's going to be no problem, but we've heard all this before. The company that's doing it have experts advising them. Unfortunately, we don't. We just have to maybe believe what they're saying, or it's very difficult to know.
Well, we've been told that the cables will come in offshore a bit, and then they'll be drilled underneath the beach, and will come out on this side of the dunes, where there'll be a connector cables put in, and there'll be actual sites in the ground where they'll be put in there. Now that's okay, people saying it sounds good when they say that, but I mean, Port Gordon, it's been going on for years now, and there's a lot of disruption there, but it's not in the village. It's not affecting the village, it's outside the village. I have people that's worked at Black Dog, and the residents there didn't want it in the first place, but they put the substation there, and it's just been a total disaster. The whole area is like a bomb site. So what they say and what they're going to do, I don't believe. I don't believe it'll come in without any disruption at all.
I would say that most of the people would be against it. Even the younger people that's up here, up in the newer part of the village, I think they would be. It'll cause a lot of disruption actually in the village, where not only the cable going into the beach, but where the cable's going to go. The route that that cable and whatever part of the infrastructure is going to be, where it's going to go to the village. Well, obviously they'll take the easiest. They'll take because Sandend surrounded with embankments and hillside. They're going to go to the. I would say that if they're going to come out to the Sandend, they'll follow the burn, because that's the direction they're going to be going if it's going to Keith. I recently saw a little map just yesterday, in fact, but it was, the writing was so small you'd need a magnifying glass, but it looks to be as though it's heading like, what'd you say, like north-east. And that, as I say, that's only because they're going to have to dig into the embankment and the brae up here, and at any side on the west side and the east side. So I would say they'll take the bit. It's at the lowest point, which will give them the least expensive part of the route to go. It'll tear up agricultural ground and things like that. It'll be. I know that they have got machinery now that they can dig underneath the ground and have no impact on the surface, like, but it's bound to affect other people and other things, like before it comes out the village.
The Save Our Beach campaign was going well. We had over 5,000 signatures for campaigning against the landing of the cables at Sandend, and it's been well received on social media. But hundreds of people that speak about when they come here, and they come up here every year, and they're very concerned about the impact it's going to have on the beach, and they're mostly all against it. I haven't heard anybody in favour yet of actually landing these cables here.
You know, people say, well, it won't really affect the beach. But you turn around to them and say, well, how would you feel sitting with your toddler on the beach having a picnic with 4 million volts underneath you on a cable? And they're like, oh no, I won't have that. You know, they just think that it's a cable, but they don't think about, you know, what's it called? The radiation and frequencies, and you know, all that comes off of cables. You know, there's a lot of, especially overhead pylons, there's been a lot of stuff come out about that, and there was never a problem with overhead pylons years ago, but now there's the risks of people living beneath overhead pylons and all that. Now, to me, there's not enough research being done with the effects and side effects of that cables coming in the beach to foresee what will happen in the future.
I feel it's completely, well, it's the wrong place. This is just one aspect. Obviously, it's important for everybody who's home, you know, no matter how long they've lived there, they've chosen that as their home. But one thing that I think is important to remember is that people lived and worked there, and worked in very dangerous jobs. They were out fishing for us or for our forefathers to have food, and I think maybe is it not appropriate for their descendants to have their village left intact and have a nice beautiful place and not have that encroaching upon it?
Possibilities are, there's one or two places just past Sandend Beach, what is known as the Salmon Bothy area, where it could come in. It's not quite so rocky, and there's one or two other bits where they could land it, which come in off the sea, and they could land it there. It might be a bit more expensive, obviously, because it's a bit more drilling, but I mean, they're spending millions and millions of pounds on this, and I mean, so what's another million, in fact, if it cost that to do it? That's what I see it as.
I've thought about it in depth. It's the only thing I would like to know is if there was more information on the infrastructure it's going to be created, how deep the cable is going to go. You see, the thing is, I don't know if they've ever did a study there, but during the war, the coastal defences were built. When I came to Sandend for a start, there was telephone poles, the length of telephone poles, about 20-30 feet high, embedded in huge blocks of cement right across the beach, from the west side to the east side. In fact, we used to play on them and hang ropes between them and things like that, you know. And we actually did a wee bit of dangerous carry on sometime. You see how long you could stand at the foot of the pole, just the tide, before you made a dash back to the beach again. So I don't know if they've had any survey done. These things are still bound to be there, because they've gradually sunk down through the sand through the years. You see, as I say, all the time we stayed in Sandend. Some of them got broken with the high tides, but the huge cement bases were still there, and they probably are still there. And some of the poles are probably still intact, but as I say, they've gradually just sunk down through the years through.
I've done quite a bit of research into it, and I mean, I don't have nothing against renewable energies and all that. I'm all for it, you know. But I don't understand why they can't do it somewhere where there's going to be a smaller impact. Now, that beach is very tidal, so the sand does shift a lot. And I've seen that sand shift 3 feet, easy, overnight. And I've asked them repeatedly, how do you protect your cables from the sand shifting? And they're like, oh well, you know, we can cover it with rocks, we can cover it with a concrete mattress type thing. I don't know what a concrete mattress is, but to me it's covering it in concrete. Now, if they cover it in concrete or rocks, because from what I believe there's going to be 2 cables coming in, and if they cover it in rocks and the sand shifts, we could feasibly be left with 2 rock piers type things running all the way out the sand into the sea. So in effect, instead of 1 beach, you could end up with 3 small parts. Now, that takes away a huge recreational part of the beach, because people won't be able to just go and walk their dogs. People won't be able to surf safely if the rocks are uncovered, especially the disabled children. Now, if they fell off a surfboard and the rocks are uncovered, they could bash their head, they could break an arm, and anything could happen. Nobody can say.
If this is going to go ahead, and personally I do think it will, because I think that I was trying to fight a big company, and I think if it does go ahead, what's in it for us? We have problems at Sandend with landslips and different things. Come on, what are we going to get out of this? That's the thing.
Even to the point of, you know, construction vehicles and everything in the village, it could affect the caravan site. People are not going to want to come back if there's concrete piers down the beach that get uncovered in storms. People are not going to want to come back and rent caravans, rent holiday homes. The fish sheds down the village, they'll lose business because holiday makers won't be here as often, so they'll lose sales with their fish. The shops in Portsoy, they'll lose business as well. So it doesn't just affect us in the village, it affects the whole surrounding area as well. You know, and I feel that there's not enough research being done to say that this won't happen if they do go ahead.
Well, the only thing I'd like to add is the fact that if they really want to take the cables in near here, I would suggest that the was around the corner. I would suggest the salmon bothy would be their best option to take it in there, and because there's a road already that goes down there. So it would obviously, they'd have to probably put a bit hardcore down to make the road more passable, but the thing is there's a road there. So they wouldn't need to put a temporary road coming in here, although they would get in from Portsoy area, come down that way, into there.
Just please don't do it there. Please don't do it. I know that these things have to be done, so we're told. I'm not an expert on these things, that these things will be an improvement on the sources of energy that we have, but surely it's counterintuitive to do that at the expense of a beautiful landscape and at the expense of the future sustainable livelihood of the people of the. It's a beautiful place. Why are we destroying our beautiful places? What's the point in us carrying on? What's the point in renewables if we're not going to have beautiful places? And particularly beautiful places that people live and have businesses in, and will hopefully continue to have businesses. And it seems there's likelihood that they will have businesses that will thrive and grow in somewhere like Sandend. So why ruin it? Why ruin all that for the future? So that's.
Has been melting away. We've been lying on the shore for a while, and also